Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have an awesome brand new Pnso release to take a look at, and you can quite clearly see it is the Sinraptor, and it was a very unexpected figure for me. I had no idea that Pnso was making a Sinraptor, and it's not one that I was really expecting them to make, and I'm really happy they did, because this is far and away the best version of a Sinraptor that is out currently, which the only one I can really think about off the top of my head would be like the Safari LTD, the older Safari LTD version, but this is definitely the best version of a Sinraptor, there's no doubt about it. As far as the packaging goes, you could see a really nice image there of the figure there on the front. You can see the Pnso logo, of course the Sinraptor right there. You also can take note to the fact that this is not a museum release, so it's, not going to be completely jam-packed with all of those extras, and that's something that many people do like because it also, dramatically lowers the cost of the figure, whereas the museum series usually ends up costing a little bit more because you have so much stuff included. Some people just kind of want the figure itself at times, and that's what you get here with this release. Really, really cool looking image up here on the top of the Sinraptor. Really psyched to get this one out of the package, take a look at it with you guys, so let's pop it out right now and do just that. So as always, we get some really fun extras. First of all, we've got the classic Pnso booklet, something that we all know and love when it comes to Pnso releases. And then as you go through, of course, you've got all kinds of really cool images of the Sinraptor figure, kind of almost like a photo shoot they include in here. But they don't only include this really nice photo shoot, they also include all sorts of information as well as other images of Sinraptors and things of that nature. So definitely a fun read, definitely a really cool addition to these sets. I'm obviously not going to go through every ounce of this right now. That would be up to you when you acquire the model for you to check out and read, but I highly recommend doing just that when you acquire this because those booklets are awesome. And then you also have a poster, it seems, included, and I'm very intrigued to see this because Pnso always has some of the best artwork you'll ever see, and wow, is that ever what we have right here. Let me go ahead and get that positioned up, and you can now see how incredible that artwork is. Look at that beautiful color scheme they've given the Sinraptor there. Although I really do quite like the color scheme we've been given on the actual figure itself. I actually think I would have liked to have seen that color scheme on it because that is really flashy but really natural. Something I may actually use on a figure myself sometime soon when I repaint one because that is definitely beautiful. And then as usual, when it comes to the theropods, you have a little stand here that Pnso includes just to help your dinosaur balance if it has any balancing issues. And then we have the Sinraptor itself, and that is just beautiful. It might be a little dark on camera currently, but trust me when I tell you, you will see how nice this looks when we get a nice closer look. And one thing in the images that we had seen that myself and quite a few others were worried about was the length of the tail. It looked like it might have been a little short, and I thought that it had a lot to do with the angle of the image with the tail kind of coming toward us, and I feel like the tail definitely looks a lot more natural and a lot better here on the actual figure in hand. So let's go ahead, jump straight to a closer look right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Sinraptor, you can see that the detailing is very impressive. Really nice scale detail, quite a bit of difference to the scale detail. Like you could see some really fine scaling there in the palate area, but it leads up to a bit of a larger scaling there running along the jawline leading up into the snout. You've got the nostrils sculpted really nicely, and I'm very impressed with how nice they have painted this area because basically it's given like a nice lighter gray, maybe almost like some variations of brown in there. It's a little hard to tell. But they very, very realistically dry brushed each and every one of those scales out, and they pop really nicely on the sculpt, and you can see that same deal over here for the opposing side of the head. That is super, super nice looking, very appealing looking paintwork right there. You've got a yellow eye with a black pupil, has a bit of a glossy look to it, which is nice to see, kind of like a nice variation of a brown running along the top of the head of our Sinraptor along that crest-like area leading down into the lower jaw. We have a really nice light gray tone of color. We of course have an articulated jaw so we can open the mouth, and you can see that we, on top of having that nice light gray, there's also a beautiful kind of a whitish wash that has been applied, and that pretty much runs the course of many different areas of this figure, and I really like that they've done that. It really highlights the scale detail, but also adds some nice elements of realism. and depth to the paint job. And you can see that we start out here on the tip of the lower jaw with that light gray. As we transition back, we transition to a darker gray, but there's actually almost like a pinkish tone in there as well with that kind of lightish gray. So quite a bit of color variation. You can see the inside of the mouth has some really nice realistic tones of color in there. The mouth can open quite wide. You have some nice dry brushing that's been applied, as well as a beautiful gloss coat, so it has an incredibly realistic look. You've got the tongue sculpted out in there, some nice color variation to that as well. And then you've got the upper side of the inside of the mouth. And I think the insides of the mouths of PNSO figures are probably some of the best that you will see anywhere. They are consistently some of the most lifelike insides of the mouths that I've ever seen, detail and paintwork wise. It's probably a little hard to see it because of the shadows there, but the detail actually runs all the way down into the throat. It's really, really impressive. You can see the teeth are also really quite nicely sculpted through the course of both the upper and lower jaws. We have some nice browns up by the top of the jawline, but then it also transitions to a white, and I feel like that also helps to add a really nice element of realism to the figure on top of everything else. And then of course the jaw is incredibly nicely articulated, works super smoothly, and it also closes perfectly, lines up really nicely. As you move back here a little further into the head, you can see the ear is sculpted out, and again that really nice dry brushing highlighting all of the detail looks excellent. You can also see some nice variations of really subtle browns showing up through the course of the grayish areas. There's also a darkening of the gray there around the eye and in the upper area of the palate. Leading back here into the neck, again some nice color variation as we have lighter and darker shades of grays, as well as that nice light wash like I was talking about that we saw in the lower jaw that is present here in the neck region. Nice wrinkling and creasing in the skin through the course of the neck. You also have some beautiful pinkish tones here in the lower part of the throat, which I absolutely adore on this figure. I think that just looks super nice. And you can see the throat itself runs along here on the underside, as well as some more, again, skin wrinkles, skin movement, showing off that turn in the neck. You can see a lot more skin wrinkles over here because the dinosaur's head is turning in that position. As you move down a little further, some more really nice skin wrinkles and skin folds at the bottom of the neck as we reach the front here of the body. You've got the shoulder blade there elaborated a little bit. The arms are held in a really nice, really natural position here for the dinosaur. Some nice muscle definition moving down, some more nice skin creasing right there behind the arm, showing how the arm is held into the body, wrinkling that skin really nicely. More fantastic scale detail. You can really see how nice that scale detail looks. And as per usual, when it comes to a PNSO release, the scale detail is incredibly vibrant on this figure. Moving down into the hand sculpts look great. Beautifully sculpted out fingers. Really nicely painted nails as well, as we have kind of like a variation of an off-white that transitions to a gray the further out into the tips of the nails you get, so there's some color difference there as well. Moving back up into the stomach region, you can see the rib cage right there. Also some skin stretching off of the body as the dinosaur is taking a step. As this leg is obviously trailing, it's stretching the skin. It transitions to a really nice, really naturalistic variation of brown, and you can also see that brown down there in the elbow area of the arm, but it's a really beautiful tone of color used, as well as a super smooth transition. You can also see that there are quite a bit of osteoderms kind of showing up here and there through the course of the figure, and we have ridges running along the back of the dinosaur, and they are different in size. They start out pretty small, they increase in size before going back to a smaller version and then increasing in size. You can see that they're kind of different through the course of the figure as far as the size goes. You have the hip bone right here. Again, very osteoderm-like look for the majority of the figure. Beautiful muscle definition as well, and you can see kind of like some splotchy, darker grays here picking up, as well as, again, some of the really nice, very appealing-looking browns and some more variations of grays. But the gray starts to kind of pick up and sort of stripe down the course of the thigh before we move down into the calf. You can see, again, such realistic, absolutely gorgeous paintwork on this figure. Really nice kneecap right there in the front of the leg. The calf muscle as well looks great. Really nice curves in the toe as the dinosaur's taking a step. You can see it transition to a darker gray down here into the foot, but it actually also has some variations of browns as well. Some beautiful scoots down the course of the foot, down into the toes. Really nice gloss coat on the nails as well. The nails have a nice grayish tone of color. You can see dew claws present as well. And then leading back here into the tail, you can see more of the skin stretching as well as some more skin wrinkling, again just showing off the movement as the dinosaur's taking a step, kind of scrunching the skin up right there in the thigh. And then leading up here into the tail, you start to have more of that dark gray that you see here, and that kind of stripes as you lead out the remainder of the tail. We get kind of like a lighter gray the further out we get, and we continue also to have that nice whitish wash, that really light wash, which Pnso often does, and I love that they do it. It really highlights the scale detail, and I think just makes the figures look so much more realistic. And that striping is really appealing to look at as well, because it has a really nice natural application of that paint, super smooth, obviously applied with an airbrush. You can see some nice pinkish tones on the underside of the dinosaur as well, leading out into the tail. You can see it really lightens up the further out into the tip you get. Obviously, these ridges running along the back decrease in size drastically, but they continue to run the entire course of the figure all the way out to the tip of the tail. And then as we move here along the underside as well, you can see that the underside is just fantastic detail-wise. Lots of really nice paintwork. Again, the light wash is applied here, even to the underside of the Sinraptor. And then we have already taken a look at the head sculpt over here. It is gorgeous, just like it was on the previous side. You can see the nice skin wrinkles and skin folds and stuff here in the neck region, showing off that nice turn in the neck of the dinosaur. You've got the arm held in pretty much the same position over here as we did see on the opposing side, which I do like. I like that they line up very nicely. Pretty much looks like the dinosaur's just kind of walking along nice and leisurely. Really nice paintwork, again, super smooth transitions between the colors with the nice variations of grays and browns throughout. Beautiful skin wrinkles right there in the front of the thigh. As this leg is walking, obviously taking a pretty impressive step forward, it's really wrinkling the skin up as you run through the entire part of the lower stomach, all the way up here to the top where the hip is. You can see the skin wrinkling and everything throughout, showing off the movement of that leg. Nice muscle definition again in the thigh. You see more of that darker gray kind of splotching in there. Some nice variations of browns, kind of like what we have there in the stomach region right here, before tapering off to kind of like a pinkish tone out onto the tail. You've got the kneecap again present right there. Really nice calf muscle as well. And we have that light wash through the entire figure. It really, really makes the paintwork just jump out at you and the sculpt work jump out at you. And you've got that fantastic, very bird-like foot sculpt down here. Again, all kinds of skin wrinkles and stuff moving down the course of the foot. This foot is planted very nicely. And then you lead up here into the tail. And again, you can see the skin stretching off of the tail as that leg is pulling forward, stretching that skin. And we lead out the length of the tail with those really nice stripes, really subtle, beautiful pinkish tones here, as well as the lighter gray tones running along the top, really making those stripes stand out very nice and naturally. And then again, we have that nice curve to the tail. So this is far and away the best Sinraptor on the market, if you ask me. Just a gorgeous sculpt with a fantastic, very, very nice looking paint job. As far as a size goes, for a length, now there again is a curve in the tail. If the tail was stretched out a little further, it would be a little bit longer, but for a length with the curve in the tail, you're looking at about 8.5 inches or around 21.5 centimeters. And height wise, the highest point might be right about here. You're looking at a little over 3 inches or closing in on 8 centimeters. And then to the top of the head, just shy of 2 3/4 inches or around a little over 7 centimeters. For a size comparison, here is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Sinraptor, and you can see that it definitely isn't the largest theropod that Pnso has produced. It's a little on the smaller side, but being a Sinraptor, you would kind of expect that. But I feel like these figures would be pretty helpful for many collectors to get a pretty good idea of the size. But for another comparison, there is the Pnso Sinraptor next to the Pnso Nanotyrannus, definitely showing off the smaller aspect of this model because the Nanotyrannus is definitely one of the smaller Pnso figures. But for another comparison, there is the Pnso Torvosaurus next to the Pnso Sinraptor, and I'm trying to get kind of a wider angle so you can really get a good idea as far as what the overall body mass between each figure is. Two gorgeous figures from Pnso, but looking at them here, like the Torvosaurus is beautiful, but I feel like Pnso lately has really come into their own when it comes to their paint jobs. Like the paint job, in my opinion, is much more realistic looking on the Sinraptor than it was on the Torvosaurus. And although the Torvosaurus looks great, I feel like just in general you can see a pretty good progression in the realism of the paint jobs compared to the Sinraptor. And then here's a size comparison between the Carcharodontosaurus and the Sinraptor here. Again, both Pnso figures. Then we've also got the Sinraptor and the Pnso Allosaurus. Two, again, gorgeous figures, but then again, every figure Pnso releases, in my opinion, is a gorgeous figure. But a similarly sized theropod, I would say, as far as their figures go with this Allosaurus. And the final comparison we have is Mr. Wilson, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then we have Dennis the Menace over here, aka the Sinraptor, I guess. Next to each other here, again showing off the fact that the Rex is way larger than the Sinraptor. But yet again, you can see no matter which route you go when it comes to Pnso, they are all fantastic models. Whether it's the sculpt, the paint, it doesn't really matter. They're all gorgeous, and you can definitely see that with the last few size comparisons, I think, but also the fact that the Sinraptor is a bit on the smaller side. So this brand new Pnso Sinraptor is a gorgeous release, and lately, I feel like with the last 5 or 6 releases, I feel like that Pnso has continued to kind of top themselves with each and every release. Like, many figures from Pnso have blown my mind throughout the entire few years that they've been producing dinosaur figures, but the last few from Pnso have absolutely blown my mind more than ever before, because on top of the incredibly realistic sculpts, the paint jobs have just been off the charts when it comes to realism. Like, they have completely perfected their craft when it comes to applying paint jobs on the figures that look natural and look lifelike. Like, they don't just look like figures that are painted, they look like living creatures, if you ask me. And they've done a good job of that with the way that they apply really nice washes, really nice dry brushing, and some fantastic airbrush paint applications, and it always pays off in the most realistic way. But even more so lately, I feel like Pnso has been absolutely killing it when it comes to their actual paint applications. And yet again, that's exactly what I see here with this Sinraptor. They've done a good job of picking, in my opinion, nice naturalistic tones, because I always like kind of darker tones on most theropods. I just feel like it looks more natural on them, because they would probably want to, hide and ambush prey and stuff. So the darker tones work really well, in my opinion. But they've also done a great job of kind of adding in a little bit of flashiness in this one, especially with the pinkish and light gray tones out on the tail and in certain other areas of the figure. It adds a little element of flashiness and those nice stripes running down the tail, but it still manages to look really natural overall. And the paint job through the rest of the figure as well is great when it comes to really highlighting the detail and just making it look incredibly alive. The sculpt, as usual, is gorgeous. They've done a perfect job of replicating a Sinraptor here, and as usual, they also have a million different areas of fantastic movement shown in the sculpt. Like, the skin wrinkles and skin folds are unreal on most Pnso models, but again, just like I was stating earlier, even more so lately with the last few releases. Probably the last 10 Pnso releases have been insanely awesome when it comes to showing off so much movement and detail in the sculpts. And yet again, they just continue to improve, honestly, with each and every release. And as per usual, this is an incredibly high recommendation from me. So if you are interested in picking this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Pnso Amazon store as well as the Pnso AliExpress store. So make sure you check that link, pick this up for sure, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.